I sat down one-on-one with Governor Sanders and talked about a variety of topics from housing and infrastructure to immigration. She reflected on her first 2 years as governor and says she has a vision for all Arkansans. Governor Sanders, thank you so much for being here today. First question I'm going to ask you, what are the most pressing issues for you in the second half of your term?
Sure, thank you so much. I think that as we're moving into the second legislative session, the priorities that I laid out, frankly, during the campaign and even in my first 2 years in my administration are very similar. We want to focus on education. We want to focus on public safety. We want to focus on affordability and the cost of living for every Arkansan. When we started in my first legislative session, we leaned heavily into K through 12 education. We were able to bring about transformative education legislation, really flipping that K through 12 system on its head, investing in things like higher teacher pay, a focus on literacy, education freedom accounts that will be universal starting next year. Now I want to take that to the second step in the second phase, which means after we've built that strong foundation, we want to move into higher education. What are we doing that help prepare people best for the workforce of the future? And so this next legislative session, we're leaning heavily into making higher education, workforce training, workforce credentials easier, more attainable, and more affordable. I think that we're going to see significant impact in our ability to recruit new business, retain ones that exist by focusing on this kind of workforce piece and building on what we did in the first session. Public safety, certainly probably one of the greatest responsibilities that I have as governor is making sure that the people in our state are safe. And so doing things that help further enhance safety and security across Arkansas, big priority. And then affordability. We were able to start working on phasing out our state's income tax during the first 2 years of my administration. We've been able to cut taxes not once, not twice, but 3 times, taking our top tax rate from 4.9% all the way down to 3.9%, putting more money back in people's pockets. Now we want to provide some immediate relief for families that need it the most, and I think we can do that by eliminating our state's grocery tax, which we are focused on making sure happens in this legislative session.
Let's talk about some issues that are really important to Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. What steps is your office taking to address the explosive growth that Northwest Arkansas is seeing right now?
We are really excited about how well our state's doing. I'm proud of the fact that Arkansas is now the #1 state in the country for inbound migration, meaning more people are moving to Arkansas than any other state in the country. Not Texas, not Florida, not Virginia, which you hear a lot about, but Arkansas leading on this front. That's a big deal for our state, but it does come with its own set of challenges. That's why it's important that we're investing in things like education, workforce training, but also our infrastructure. We've put a significant amount of time and work into building out our state's infrastructure plans, specifically our water infrastructure. One of the most critical, important things that you really don't think about when you turn your faucet on unless water doesn't come out when you do so. And so we've done a lot in that space. We'll continue to invest a lot of time and resources into our state's infrastructure, our roads, our bridges. No matter how great we are doing, if we don't have the ability to have a strong infrastructure, it will really prohibit us from continuing to take Arkansas to the next level. So that'll be a great focus as we move forward in the next couple of months and years.
How will you ensure that these smaller communities also benefit from development?
Well, one of the things that is so important to me is that every corner of our state does well. We don't want just while we're so proud of the growth that's happening in Northwest Arkansas, I want every corner, every community, both big and small, to thrive. That's why investing in things like education make a big difference. That's one of the best ways that we can provide opportunity, is so that every kid in the state, no matter whether they go to the biggest or the smallest school, or whether they get homeschooled by their parents, that they have access to a quality, good education is one of the best things that we can do to level the playing field, and that's why we've spent so much time investing in that in my administration.
Let's talk about the Franklin County Prison. We have reported on this extensively, talked to a lot of people that feel that there's been a lack of transparency in this process. What do you have to say to those people?
You know, I've been very clear from the very beginning, both during my campaign, but even since getting elected, of talking about the need to invest more in our public safety. We've made no secret that we had and needed to build a new prison here in the state of Arkansas. We should never allow violent repeat offenders back out onto our streets simply for a lack of space. We have to do a better job as a state. There's not a single member of the law enforcement community that I've met with over the course of the last couple of years who doesn't tell you one of the biggest needs and biggest concerns that they have is the fact that we don't have enough space. Whether that's at the overcrowding in our county jails or our state prison system, we have to do a better job. We were able to open up about 1,500 new beds in existing facilities, but it's simply not enough. We have to do a better job, and we spent a significant amount of time studying, researching, and determining where the best location possible to put that. At the end of the day, being governor is about making hard choices, and this is something that I know is necessary in order to keep people safe, and I think it's the best and right thing to do for Arkansas.
You're familiar with State Senator Brian King's bill that says that he wants to divert the funds for the prison to expand county jails instead. If his bill passes the House and the Senate, would you sign it?
No, because there's very few county officials that tell you that is a workable, viable solution. In fact, almost overwhelmingly, there has been pushback against that idea from every county across the state. The Arkansas Association of Sheriffs has endorsed us moving forward with a new prison. And we know that that's the best way that we can ensure the safety of people across our state. I found that he's not the easiest, most reasonable member. If people bring reasonable, viable ideas to the table that help protect Arkansans, we'll certainly take a look at it, but that doesn't seem to have any pathway forward.
Let's talk about immigration. President Donald Trump recently signed several executive orders regarding immigration. And how is your administration planning to address the impact on the state's immigration population?
This is a president who finally we have that is going to take the law and order and security of our country seriously. I'm proud of the fact that we have a president who was very outspoken and very public about the fact that he wanted to bring law and order back to this country. We have to start with securing the border. He's taking steps on doing that and prioritizing removing violent criminals from our communities. That's something that needs to happen, and Arkansas will be supportive as they go through that process.
What is your stance on the involvement of local and state law enforcement in federal immigration enforcement, especially in terms of maintaining community safety and trust?
We want to make sure that we have a great relationship both from our state officials, our county officials, our local law enforcement, as well as our federal partners. Across the board, having that level of communication, whether it's on safety and security or responding to a disaster, having good coordination is absolutely critical. It's why I'm glad we finally have a friend and a partner back in the White House and somebody that I know we'll be able to work closely with.
You announced a Medicaid workforce requirement yesterday. Some pushback from some people saying maybe this is unfair for people. Tell me, what's your response to that?
I think what would be unfair is allowing people to cheat the system. We certainly want to make sure that anybody that needs help and is part of a vulnerable population has access to care. In fact, it takes resources away from people who really need it when people who are very able-bodied and of adult age are simply sitting on the sidelines and letting their fellow taxpayers pick up the tab. That's not acceptable, and we have to encourage people to want to move up. And we never want to just offer a handout, but a hand up, and that's exactly what this program was originally designed to do, is provide assistance for people who really need it, but also create pathways and opportunities for people to move up the next rung of the ladder. I always want to see people taking the next step and having a pathway to prosperity, not being trapped in a lifetime of poverty. That's exactly what a program like this does by requiring that work piece, or that someone goes to school, stays home and takes care of their kids, or volunteers in their community. There's great dignity in somebody having a job and putting work into it. And I think that this will be a great step forward for our state.
Last question. If you could describe your vision for Arkansas in the next few years, what would that be?
I want everybody in our state to love Arkansas as much as I do. I want them to be proud to call this their home, and I want them to be able to envision any future possible and for it to be able and the opportunity to be successful to take place right here in our state. I think that Arkansas is the best state in the country, and I want people to live here, work here, and raise their families here.
Thank you for your time, Governor Sanders. Appreciate it.